I don't. We have a few small topics today, and the reason we're starting with small topics is because we're going more or less in the order of the Shulchan Aruch, more or less. We learned up to now Kuf Samechet 168, and we're continuing until we get to the topics of wine, which Bezrat Hashem will discuss next class. Something interesting before we begin. There's something interesting around the Simanim where we are. You expect in the Shulchan Aruch to have halachot of blessings, right? What bracha do we say? What's to happen if someone forgot to say the bracha? Something very spiritual. That's the halachot that the Shulchan Aruch typically should have. That's what we expect. In Siman, Kuf Samechtet, and also Kuf Ain, we have here maybe good manners that a person should have in his meal. So the manners. How do we act? How do we eat? Do we throw bread from person to person? Do we, when there's two people eating together, they have a bowl of hummus in front of them, each one has a pita, for example, and they're ochlim basivuv, as I say in Hebrew, right? So that the two of them are eating, one of them stops for a moment, he needs to go and has answer the cell phone. Does the other one need to wait for him or no? So that's manners. Okay,
if it's your wife,
if it's your wife, or even if it's not your wife, just a person from a friend you're eating at work together, and do you wait for him or don't you wait for him? Do you look at someone's plate or at his face while he's eating? Right, so we don't do it. It's interesting that the Shulchan Aruch he brings all of these things which he didn't make them up. It's brought already in the Tur, and the Tur brought it from the Gemara. So the Gemara, the book of Jewish law, brings here Jewish manners at the table. And it teaches us this idea that we mentioned a few times in the past, that a table is like a mizbeach. This is like a mizbeach. Or more of a bigger idea, that Judaism never, like not like Christianity, for example, no ruchniut, spirituality, and gashmiut, the physical world, and they're separated, and they can't talk to each other. And sometimes you go to the spirituality, and sometimes you have to be in the lower level. Jewish philosophy is that the spirituality can actually go into every aspect of our life, even food. We share in common all the animals, so even that has a spiritual level in it. It's not just that we say a bracha, we say the shakol, and that's it. Now I'm an animal. No, I said shakol to show that drinking water or eating steak or eating bread, I'm making that I'm eating it as a human being, as a holy human being. That's just an interesting idea that we see in the Simanim. And we won't learn Kufayin because I mean, you can just read it on your own if you want in English. We'll go into a few topics. Part of the norms past that there used to be a shamash. Sometimes it used to be a servant, or sometimes it's just to be just a person helping, or like a waiter. And the halacha is that anything which has a good smell, you have to give to this waiter to eat. But then it was very common. You used to give from your plate. You used to leave some on the side and give to this the waiter. And here comes the halacha. Then it was common. Nowadays it's not common, but it does bring a wider topic. בשל השולחן ערוך, based on the Gemara, ואסור ליתן לו פת, אסור ליתן לו פרוסת פת, אלא אם כן יודע בו שנטל ידיו. This person who's serving all the food, when Kuf Samechtet at the end of Seif Aleph. And so you can give him bread only if you know that he washed hands. And so if he's washed his hands for the bread, only then you can give him bread. Otherwise, give him other things. That's a great quick question, and that's the next seif in the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, so today we don't have someone who he comes gives us. I never saw when you go to a wedding and someone gives you a plate. So take a bite and take a sip. It doesn't work like that in our days. But we have more of a question: can we give food to someone when we know that he will not say a bracha. Hey, can we give food to someone?
Jewish or not Jewish?
Jewish, obviously Jewish. Okay, but just if it's not Jewish, so there's no problem. Okay, so what could be the problem here? The problem is what avera, what problem might we have in giving food? If neighbor, exactly, if neighbor. I just want to read you from the Beit Yosef inside. It's actually Rabbeinu Yonah. So you have a problem with neighbor. So we have a problem with neighbor. Internet here is great, but opening it is can't find the one. Wait for just Rabbeinu Yonah inside. That's why I want to. So I have it in front of me. Okay. I'll translate to English when I read it. So Rabbeinu Yonah wrote, from here we learn that you shouldn't give food someone unless you know he'll say a bracha. If you want to give food to someone and you aren't sure if he'll say a bracha, you can't give him. It's interesting to notice his language. I can give food to someone only if I know that he will say a blessing. If I have a question, according to the Rabbi Yonah, I'm giving food. If I have a question, I don't give him food. But Rabbi Yonah, he passes a second and says, it seems like that if he wants to do it, if he's trying to do a mitzvah, for example, you're giving it to him as tzedakah, so you're allowed. And if I see a poor person and he is hungry, and I want to give him food, and I'm not sure if he'll say a blessing, according to Rabbi Yonah, there's no problem. You can give him the food. Beit Yosef himself, he argues, okay, and Beit Yosef, he's the same rabbi who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. So Beit Yosef himself, he argues. He says that no, ain't dvarav nerim. He argues. Why? The Shamash, the Gemara says about Shamash, the servant, the person who's giving the food, that you're allowed to give him only if you know that he washed his hands. And the Gemara doesn't say anything about mitzvah, not mitzvah, tzedakah, not tzedakah. So that's a proof against the Rabbi Yonah. So we have here two questions which we want to discuss. It won't take us long. First, what happens if I'm not sure? I'm not sure if he'll do an Avera or not. Okay, and that says we can see maybe from the Rabbi Yonah that if I'm not sure, I can not give him food. Give food only if I'm sure he'll say a blessing. Second, what happens when we're doing a mitzvah? And the mitzvah doesn't have necessarily to be like stuck. Let's say there's a family who grew up in a non-religious family, and he's inviting his parents. He'll never invite his parents. What about the mitzvah of kibbud horim? What about maybe causing a lifnei of now them hating Judaism? So that brings you, and today it's a very, very serious question.
If he's very hungry and
yeah, pikuach nefesh, that's obviously above everything.
What if they would eat treif if you didn't give them
so what if they would eat treif? Well, if they would eat treif, so I'm not giving them treif.
No, but they would go and eat it. In other words, if you provide them kosher food, at least you're eating.
Yeah, right. So there's another question. Am I allowed to? So there's actually it's actually a question. It brings us into a wider topic, which I want to go in now because we won't manage to learn all the topics of Lifnei Iver and answer the question. But it brings us to an interesting question. It's interesting to learn about it. The mitzvah of Lifnei Iver not to cause someone else to sin. Is it more focused on me or more focused on the other person? What do I mean? If exactly like an example that you mentioned, if I can give kosher food to someone, knowing he will not say he will for sure not say the bracha. At least he's eating kosher, right? He's eating kosher. Not saying a bracha is rabbinical. If I don't give him food, he'll eat non-kosher food. Okay? So that's midoraita. If it's just focused from his perspective, obviously from his perspective, it's better that I give him kosher food, although he won't say a bracha. Right? So obviously I should give him the kosher food and he should at least eat kosher food. But if I'm looking also from my perspective, when the other guy eats non-kosher food, that's his business. I didn't tell him what to do. I didn't tell him to eat. He can choose if to eat kosher food or non-kosher food. From my perspective, when I give him kosher food and he doesn't say the bracha, so I have a problem because I caused him to do something that he wouldn't have done without me. That's a question. Seems like we are lenient about, specifically in that question, we are lenient about it. But in like most cases, we're talking when we invite non-religious people, so they'll eat kosher food. No, so just the question is, if I give it to them, and because of me, now they eat non-kosher food.
I mean, in general, you go around telling people.
No, there's a difference between rebuking or maybe not rebuking, and causing someone to do something. So in my actions are causing him to eat. They could say, in any case, he would eat. Could be a question.
I would have a totally different approach.
What?
You'll give him the food or you'll make him make a food.
Okay, yeah. So the best approach is you give him the food. I say to him, let's make a bracha.
Right.
When we have non-religious families coming to us, people who don't say bracha, so everyone goes to wash their hands. So also they wash their hands. And when we say hamosi, so they say amen. So that's a very good approach. And I saw it also in the army. You put someone, you say a bracha, and they would respect. So I'm not sure if I've ever met someone who was anti in the social way. They said, I'm not saying amen even to your bracha. So you can ask them to say a bracha, or at least say a bracha loud. And when they say amen, according to some poskim, that's at least like you have a kavanah to be mostly them, and they'll even listen to you many times. So that's a good way to solve. That's we actually went to the solutions already. I want to just read beforehand the Shulchan Aruch and the Ramah, because it's an important topic. We'll read it in Hebrew and translate it while I read it. So it says the Shulchan Aruch is stringent. Is stringent. לא ייתן לאכול אלא למי שיודע בו שיברך. One is allowed to give food only to someone who you know he will say a bracha. The Ramah, youth, and he says, ויש מקלים, some more lenient, like Rabbi Yonah, אם נותן לעני בתורה צדקה, if you give him a tzedakah. You can also call hiruf as a mitzvah, or preventing fights, kibud horim could be a mitzvah. Many aspects of giving food to other people will have quite a big dimension of a mitzvah in them. So according to the Ramah, we can make much more ways to be makel. Some achronim have here a question of if I'm not sure, maybe yes, maybe no. So the Shulchan Aruch seems stringent even on that, but Lema'aseh people are more lenient. If I'm giving him food, and I'm not sure if he'll say bracha. Maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know. I can be lenient about it, and especially today, when if we don't invite people, if we don't host, if we're in the army and we open a packet of bamba in the army, that's very above the age already. But the future generation can ask us the gift. Obviously, you give. Otherwise, you cause here hate. So you call, and that's even if you don't give him to eat from your food. So from having a problem of a rabbinical problem of not saying a bracha, we can cause more of a serious problem of sin'ah, of hatred, and maybe distancing from bracha. But it's just interesting to see here again how the halacha thinks of other people as well. That's the first topic, and as I said today, we have a few small topics, so we are skipping a different topic, and
So the conclusion of that is, if you think it'll cause ill will,
it's yeah, and especially if you can, maybe they'll say a bracha. If you say a bracha and out loud and they say amen, they'll listen to us. So especially in that case, you'll be make up. Okay, I'm skipping to Siman Kuf Ein Bet. And it could actually, we meet, I think, this topic quite often. We put something in our mouth, and then we realize that we did not say a bracha. Okay, so that's the topic of Kuf Ein Bet.
and then not saying the correct.
Different than saying, yeah. The correct bracha, that will have a few weeks until we get to.
What are you doing till then?
We have a lot of things. We have wine to learn until then. We have a lot of topics to learn until then. What do we do until then? You make sure to say the correct bracha.
Don't eat.
Oh, don't eat.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
oh, don't eat.
Sorry, we're fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an example here where we see that Chazal are more makel by bracha. In what we call just now, they were more makel. So a person said the Shulchan Aruch, or it goes in the Gemara. We see in the Gemara, the Gemara brings a few brightot. One brighter says a person who puts something by mistake in his mouth. One brighter says spit it out, okay, spit or take it out. One brighter says swallow it, and another brighter says put it in your side of your mouth and say the bracha. We have three different options. The Gemara says, wait, decide. You have all three options, right? So the Gemara says there's a difference. And there's also the machloket between the Bavli, which we'll say now, and the Yerushalmi, which also has maybe an influence when we drink water. So a person forgot, and he put liquid in his mouth. If I spit out the liquids, I will not drink it again, right? And I can't put the liquids in the side of my mouth and say the bracha. So if it's liquids, I swallow the liquids. Swallow the liquids. I don't. Chazal said in that such a case, you're going to spit it out. You're going to spit it out. According to the Yerushalmi, it seems like only if I don't have anything else. If I have a whole bottle of water here, and I took just a bit of water, or even a whole cup of water, it's not so expensive. According to the Yerushalmi, if you have more water, spit it out. Expensive wine, maybe then, even according to the Yerushalmi, even if you have a whole bottle here, so you can drink. Okay, so with liquids, I swallow it. What about the bracha? Let's say a bracha afterwards or no?
You take another sip.
If I take another sip, obviously I say another bracha. Let's say I do not have. I had just a bit of wine, okay, and or whiskey. I had just a bit of whiskey. I took the shot of glass and remembered, and that's it. I'm not going to drink more whiskey, otherwise I will not be able to say a bracha in any case, right? It reminds me of you have time, right? Right? Okay. So it reminds me of a joke. A guy buys a Jack Daniels, and it's in a glass bottle. And he wants to ride home to his bike and have the Jack Daniels in a bag. Tells himself, I shouldn't ride the Jack Daniels on my bike because if I fall, it's a glass bottle, it will break. So he decides to drink all the bottle beforehand. He gets home and says, that I did a great decision. On the way home, I fell 7 times. That was a great decision. Okay, so anyway, if I have this, just one shot of whiskey, right, and I don't want to drink more, do I say a bracha afterwards or no? Bracha Achorah will say. Bracha Achorah will say.
The bracha Achorah, that's the Oraita, and the bracha Rishonah.
Only bracha Achorah on Hamazon, Birkat Hamazon, and only if I'm satisfied and I eat bread, only then is the Oraita. So we have an interesting argument between the Rishonim, between the Rambam and the Rosh. We're posting like the Rambam. But just the idea of the Rosh is interesting. We have a rule, we mentioned it in the past a few times, that Birkat HaNe'enim, we always say before we do the mitzvah, before we eat. Before we eat an apple, we say Borei Pri Ha'etz. Birkat HaNe'enim, and most of Birkat HaMitzvot, we do not say afterwards. We say only before. We gave a few examples of Birkat HaMitzvot, we say afterwards, like in the hands, lighting Shabbat candles, but generally speaking, all of those brachot we say beforehand. Going to the Rambam. Beforehand, if I forgot to say the bracha, Chazal said, you know what? You can drink the whiskey. Hey, drink it. But you don't say the bracha afterwards. You don't say the bracha afterwards because that's it. You drank the whiskey. You can't say a bracha after you drank it. You can't ask permission after you did something. I have a friend who used to say it's easier to ask for forgiveness than asking for permission. Right? But after you did something, you can't ask for permission. You can maybe ask for forgiveness, but you can't ask for permission. So the Rambam makes sense. That's how the Shulchan Aruch holds, and that's how most of the Achronim, even the Ashkenazi ones, hold. You drank it, there's nothing else to drink, that's it. You missed the mitzvah. No bracha. You say bracha Achorah if you had enough. You say bracha Achorah. The Rosh says, and the Ramak goes by him, although the Achronim, as I said, do not hold like him, that since I remembered while I was drinking, I remembered I had it in my mouth. So if my bracha starts from when before I drank, And technically, I couldn't say it, so I said it afterwards. But really, I started saying the bracha already with my mind, or the obligation of the bracha already started beforehand. So it's an interesting idea. We aren't posking like it, but we have here an example of an action can start with a mind beforehand.
With whiskey, comes after.
Yeah,
Most
but
people don't like it with drink it just for the feeling of lightness.
yeah, but the Rosh didn't put in it. Yeah, we go by Hanat Achich, the Hanat of the mouth itself. Yeah, right. Or depending how much you drink, maybe it's not Hanat. But we go by the eating. We go by the drinking or eating.
In a bracha as well.
Yeah.
Comments.
Yeah. Even if after that we satisfied for the next 5 hours, we go by the eating. Go by the eating. Anyway, just to explain it, how come Chazal here said you can drink it? So a few explanations. One, as soon as this whiskey or water is in my mouth, no one else will drink it. So if I'm now swallowing it, I'm not swallowing something which has an obligation of bracha. I'm swallowing something which no one else will eat. Therefore, I can drink it. And another explanation is Chazal, they instituted the bracha. They said to say a bracha. And here they said, since you forgot already and you can't spit it out, it will be, we care for your money. So you don't have to spit it out. As I said, since from the Yerushalmi, if you have a lot of water, it's in front of you, just spit out the water and have another. What happens if it's solids? And that will be the last halacha. If it's solids, so if it's something which I can take it out, and then I'll bring it in my mouth again. It says I put the cherry tomato in my mouth, and I didn't bite into it. There's no problem for me taking it out and putting it back in again. That's what I should do. Take it out and put it and say the bracha and put it in again. If it's something which I will not, if I spit it out, I won't put it back into my mouth. Chazal said, just move it to the side of your mouth. Move to the side of your mouth. The Gemara asks, why not all solid foods just move to the side of the mouth? And that's it. And the Gemara says that the pasuk will be Yimale piti latecha. When we say a bracha, we should say it with a full mouth. And we learn here an idea not just for when we forgot to say a bracha and then what do we do, but when we say a bracha, we should say it with a full mouth.
You should say it
with a full mouth. With a full mouth, which means not a full mouth full of food. All of our mouth should be part of the bracha. All the mouth
with our
so all of our mouth.
And if we have food here, we can.
Yes, if we have food on the side, we can't say the bracha with all of our mouth. So if there's no other solution, so just move the food to the side of your mouth. But even if we don't forget to say a bracha, we know how to say a bracha, say it with all of your mouth being part of the bracha. It's a very similar pasuk of kol atzmotai tomarna. All of our body should be part of praising Hashem. And we started with the idea that the Jewish philosophy is that spirituality goes into the physical world. So we can see the same idea here. All of our mouth, all of our bones, all of our parts of the body are part of the spiritual world. We want them to be part of it.
So are we giving food to somebody who won't make a bracha?
We're giving food to someone who won't give a bracha. So we said that we can be